Before you stands one of Europe's most ancient royal jewels. But what if I told you that behind the gleam of these 400-year-old pearls lies a tale of multi-million-dollar bribes, profound disgrace, and treacherous betrayal that nearly shattered an entire monarchy? Do you imagine this is merely a beautiful bauble? Think again. Why was one queen compelled to wear this diadem like a mask, using it to conceal the most explosive scandal in her family's history? Why did her daughter, upon ascending the throne, stash this treasure away in a vault for decades, as if it were cursed? And why today, when Queen Maxima wears it, do court jewelers and historians collectively hold their breath in anticipation? This isn't merely a tale of precious jewels. This is a profound investigation intertwining the ambitions of 17th century women, the clandestine dealings of the 20th, and the political signals of the 21st century. So, settle in comfortably. Today, we will uncover the truth that official chronicles omit. Watch this video until the very end, and you will never again look at royal treasures the same way. I promise, you are in for an astonishing revelation. Picture the year 1900, the Belle Époque, the beautiful era in full bloom. The world stood on the cusp of a new century, the air crackling with the promise of change as Europe's aristocratic courts vied for opulence and splendor. The prevailing fashion was the garland style, light, airy platinum and diamond jewels resembling delicate lace. It was precisely at this moment, at this intersection of eras, that a concept was born in the Netherlands, one that would defy fleeting trends. At the helm of the kingdom stood the young Queen Wilhelmina, already possessing a will of steel. She had reigned for only 1 decade, and she needed not simply to follow fashion, but to assert the immutability of her dynasty. She didn't just need a new piece of jewelry. She needed a symbol, an artifact that would tangibly link her reign to the golden age of Dutch history. The idea was bold and ingenious, not to create history from scratch, but to weave an existing legend into a new setting. The commission was given to the court jewelers. The task sounded almost like a challenge, to create a diadem that would appear contemporary for 1900, yet whose heart would be treasures that had witnessed the dawn of the House of Orange's power. To achieve this, pearls were retrieved from the royal vaults, pearls whose history dated back to the 17th century. These were the very pearls that once adorned the ensembles of one of the most influential women in Dutch history. Their first owner was Amalia of Solms-Braunfels, the consort of Prince Frederick Henry of Orange. In the 17th century, when Holland was a formidable maritime power and its fleet traversed the oceans, Amalia, through her intellect, ambition, and impeccable taste, transformed the court at The Hague into a nexus of European culture and politics. She adored pearls, the quintessential symbol of status and wealth of that era, and amassed a collection that queens themselves envied. It was these very pearls, having outlived their first owner by nearly 250 years, that were destined for a second life. The jewelers faced a formidable challenge: how to treat these historical relics, how to craft a fitting setting that would not overshadow their inherent glory, but merely enhance it. The concept was for the new diadem to become a bridge across centuries, visibly demonstrating that Queen Wilhelmina's authority rested upon a foundation laid by her illustrious ancestors. Let's momentarily set aside its royal status and view this diadem through the eyes of a jeweler. At its core lies a river of old-cut diamonds set in platinum, a metal that, in the early 20th century, symbolized a new kind of luxury, both robust and noble. Jewelers of that era had perfected the technique of creating an almost invisible setting, making it seem as though the stones float in mid-air, forming a luminous ribbon of pure light. This is not the overt brilliance of modern diamonds, but a deeper, softer shimmer, like candlelight reflected on frozen water. The weight of this foundation is palpable, yet not oppressive, subtly reminding its wearer of the immense value and profound responsibility she carries. However, the diamonds here are but a supporting cast. The undisputed queens of this ball are the 7 pear-shaped pearls. They are not perfectly uniform, and that is precisely where their true value lies. Each bears the patina of time, subtle imperfections that distinguish a creation of nature from a soulless factory imitation. Their color is not pure white, but a complex creamy hue imbued with warm reflections. If you hold them to the light, you can glimpse the famous Orient, a deep inner luminosity, an iridescent shimmer that seems to emanate from the very heart of the pearl. Each of these drops of milky light holds the echoes of 17th century balls and the gazes of long-departed courtiers. The diadem's architecture is a powerful anthem of austerity and authority. In an era when asymmetrical floral motifs were in vogue, this tiara astonishes with its symmetry and vertical aspiration. The pearls are not merely woven into the design, they stand tall. Like 7 spires of a Gothic cathedral, they rise above the diamond base, crowned with tiny diamond sparks. The central, largest pearl serves as the axis of the entire composition, setting its rhythm and hierarchy. This is not a whimsical accessory. It is a crown in its purest, most unadorned form. But the true secret of this masterpiece lies in its ingenious engineering. The diadem is designed to transform. Each of the 7 pearls is affixed to a special pin and can be removed. With the aid of a tiny, almost invisible mechanism, the majestic tiara transforms into an elegant diamond bandeau, more modest and suitable for less formal occasions. This practicality, embedded in the very heart of the royal treasure, is a very Dutch characteristic. Therefore, what we have before us is not merely a piece of jewelry, but a complex organism. The diamond base represents the power and opulence of the present. The 7 ancient pearls embody the wisdom and legitimacy of the past. And the ability to connect or disconnect them symbolizes the monarchy's flexibility, its capacity to adapt to the demands of time without losing its essence. Each time the clasp of this diadem emits its quiet, confident click, it's not simply the adornment of a woman, but a ritualistic merging of eras. The cold February air of The Hague in 1901 was filled with anticipation. The nation held its breath, observing the year's main event, the wedding of their young Queen Wilhelmina to Duke Henry of Mecklenburg-Schwerin. This was not merely a marriage, it was a dynastic union upon which the future of the monarchy depended. And then, when the bride appeared before the people, all eyes were drawn not only to her wedding gown, but also to what crowned her head. For the first time, the world beheld the new old diadem in all its splendor. On the young queen, known for her serious and even austere demeanor, the jewel appeared as more than just a wedding accessory. It appeared to be a veritable crown. The 7 ancient pearls, towering above the diamond radiance, seemed like 7 vows of loyalty to the history and future of her nation. On this day, Wilhelmina was not merely a bride. She was the living embodiment of the House of Orange, and the diadem served as the most eloquent testament to that fact. The ornament perfectly complemented her image, that of a ruler acutely aware of the full gravity and grandeur of her mission. The choice was a brilliant political maneuver. By wearing the pearls of the dynastic ancestress, Amalia of Solms-Braunfels, on her wedding day, Wilhelmina sent a powerful message. She spoke without words. My marriage, like my reign, is founded upon centuries of tradition and the unshakable strength of my ancestors. It was a silent manifesto, asserting the continuity and legitimacy of power at the very moment she embarked upon a new, personal, and state-defining era. The diadem became the final, resonant chord of her image, a symbol of the unbreakable link between eras. The reaction of her contemporaries was astounding. Newspapers vied with each other to describe the Queen's historic diadem, marveling not only at its beauty, but also its profound symbolism. For the Dutch, it was a source of national pride. They saw not merely diamonds and pearls, but a tangible piece of their own history returned from oblivion to bless the future of their monarchy. The jewel instantly ceased to be the Queen's personal property and transformed into a national treasure, a legend born before the eyes of the entire country. Beneath the brilliance and universal admiration lay a more subtle calculation. In the diplomatic and aristocratic circles of Europe, this debut was interpreted unequivocally. In an era when many monarchies were young or unstable, the House of Orange showcased its deepest roots. This was a gesture of soft power, a declaration that their authority was not an accident, but the result of centuries of history. From that day forward, the diadem with Amalia's pearls acquired its special status. It became a jewel not for balls, but for the most significant state ceremonies, a herald of the most momentous events in the life of the nation. Following Wilhelmina's austere and lengthy reign, the Dutch throne passed to her daughter Juliana. The epoch had shifted. The pre-war severity and wartime resilience gave way to a time of reconstruction, hope, and a softer, more human face of monarchy. And in the hands of Queen Juliana, the diadem with Amalia's pearls found its true golden age. If for her mother the tiara was a symbol of asserting power, for Juliana it became a symbol of its preservation and continuity in a new, changing world. It was during Juliana's reign, from 1948 to 1980, that this jewel became her unspoken calling card for the most solemn occasions. She was not just a queen. She was the mother of a nation rebuilding its strength after a terrible war. And when she wore this diadem to state banquets honoring visits from world leaders, it was a silent dialogue. The cool majesty of the ancient pearls and diamonds conveyed more to guests than any diplomatic speech. You are in a country with centuries of tradition, one that has weathered every storm and preserved its dignity. Dozens of photographs exist, capturing Queen Juliana in this tiara. Here she is at an official reception, the strict vertical lines of the pearls emphasizing her royal bearing. Here she is in one of her famous official portraits, where the diadem becomes the centerpiece of the composition, a symbol of the throne's immutability. For Juliana, this jewel was not a fashion statement. It was an instrument of state protocol. She wore it not to dazzle, but to represent. Personal, family moments were also intertwined with this jewel. It was while wearing it that she passed the baton to her daughter, the future Queen Beatrix. When Beatrix married, Juliana, as Queen Mother, specifically chose this tiara, as if blessing the new union with the full might of her family's history. Each time the diadem appeared in public, it was an event. Collectors and historians awaited these rare appearances, knowing that Juliana's choice was never arbitrary. Thus, in the hands of Queen Juliana, the tiara ultimately forged its character. It is not a jewel for young princesses or festive celebrations. It is a regalia for a reigning queen in the execution of her highest duty. It became associated not with glitter and luxury, but with responsibility, history, and the quiet, confident strength that Juliana herself possessed. Its golden age spanned decades of impeccable service as the foremost jeweled symbol of the Dutch monarchy. Behind the dazzling splendor of royal treasures, shadows always lurk, and the history of this diadem is no exception. No, it's not linked to legends of curses or bloody crimes. Its dark side is far subtler and more realistic. It became a silent witness to one of the most explosive scandals that nearly ruined the reputation of the Dutch monarchy in the 20th century. The shadow fell not upon the jewel itself, but upon the family it symbolized. In 1976, the thunder struck. World newspapers exploded with headlines about the so-called Lockheed affair. At the center of the deafening scandal was Prince Bernhard, Prince Consort, and husband of Queen Juliana. The investigation revealed that the spouse of the reigning monarch, a war hero and one of the country's most popular figures, had for many years been accepting multi-million-dollar bribes from the American aircraft manufacturer Lockheed. In exchange for this money, he was to lobby for the purchase of their planes for the Dutch Air Force. For a nation proud of its honesty and incorruptibility, This was a stab to the heart. Picture this. While the press and parliament shredded her husband's reputation, Queen Juliana had to continue performing her duties. She still received ambassadors, hosted state banquets, and presented the world with the unwavering face of the monarchy. And during those agonizing moments, as she donned the diadem with Amalia's pearls, she must have felt its weight more acutely than ever before. This jewel, a symbol of 400 years of honor and dignity, transformed into a heavy mask, concealing family disgrace and personal anguish. Each public appearance while wearing it was an act of incredible self-possession. The fallout from the scandal was catastrophic. Prince Bernhard was forced to relinquish all his military ranks and official positions. A government commission was established, and the monarchy itself teetered on the brink. Whispers rippled through the populace. How could the Queen possibly have been unaware of her own husband's dealings? Trust in the royal house was deeply eroded. And while Juliana herself emerged from the crisis with dignity, the family's reputation bore a permanent scar. It is crucial to understand there is no evidence, nor even a whisper of a rumor, that the diadem itself was acquired with dirty money or entangled in financial schemes. Its history is impeccable. Yet, it was precisely this flawless purity that created such a dramatic contrast. Its icy, pristine radiance in those years only highlighted all the more starkly the human passions, avarice, and deceit that seethed within the palace walls. The diadem became an unwitting participant in a drama where the ideal world of a royal fairy tale clashed with an ugly reality. On April 30th, 1980, a day etched forever into the annals of Dutch history. At the royal palace in Amsterdam, before the eyes of an entire nation, Queen Juliana, aged, weary from the burdens of power and personal adversities, signed the act of abdication in favor of her eldest daughter, Beatrix. It was a moment of immense emotional power, a poignant farewell to the Queen Mother, a symbol of an entire era, and a welcoming embrace for a new, more modern and business-minded sovereign. Along with the crown, Juliana also passed on the key to the royal treasury. And for Amalia's pearl diadem, this signaled the end of its golden age. This changing of the guard was far more than a mere formality. A new style emerged, transforming the very spirit of the monarchy. The new queen, Beatrix, was a woman of a different mold. Energetic and pragmatic, she viewed her role more as the chief executive officer of the royal house rather than its fairy tale sovereign. Her taste in jewelry reflected this outlook. She preferred tiaras that were more graphic, modern, and significantly versatile. Her mother's majestic, austere, and profoundly historic diadem simply didn't fit this new aesthetic. Thus began a long period of obscurity. The ornament was neither sold nor dismantled. It simply lay quietly in its velvet case within the royal vault. For decades, it remained unseen by the public eye. Other favorites took its place. The more modest button tiara, also featuring pearls, which Beatrix wore consistently, or the magnificent sapphire tiara. A generation that grew up under the new queen might not even have known of Amalia's pearl diadem's existence. This was its life in the shadows. From a principal symbol of the monarchy, it had been relegated to the status of a museum piece, one not even on display. For historians and connoisseurs, this was a time of quiet sorrow and anticipation. They knew the treasure was intact, but wondered, would the world ever see it again? Had its story truly ended with Queen Juliana, destined to remain forever a mere memory in old black-and-white photographs? An era had passed, and it seemed there was simply no place left for this majestic artifact in the new world. And then, just when it seemed the diadem had fallen into an eternal slumber within the velvet darkness of its vault, a new heroine stepped onto the stage of European history. Her name was Máxima Zorreguieta, a vibrant, charismatic Argentine woman who had captured the heart of the Dutch heir apparent, Willem-Alexander. Their union in the early 2000s was a breath of fresh air for the ancient monarchy, yet it also raised an unsettling question. Could this woman from the New World truly comprehend and embrace the full weight of the House of Orange's centuries-old traditions? The answer was delivered without words, in the eloquent language of jewels. Its triumphant return was gradual, almost theatrical. In 2001, at the wedding of Norway's Crown Prince Haakon, Maxima, then still the heir's fiancée, appeared in a diamond bandeau that experts didn't immediately recognize. Only the most observant realized this was the base of Amalia's very own diadem, but without its crowning glory, the antique pearls. It was a stroke of genius on Queen Beatrix's part. It was as if she were telling her future daughter-in-law, "I entrust you with our heritage, but the right to wear its principal symbols must be earned." It was an initiation, the first step toward full acceptance into the family. And Maxima earned that right. As crown princess, and then as queen consort, her energy, intelligence, and impeccable style breathed new life into the monarchy. Finally, the moment arrived when she was entrusted with the diadem in its full historical splendor. She debuted it in an official portrait celebrating her 40th birthday, and later wore it at a reception honoring the President of China. The world gasped. The image of the austere Queen Mother gave way to a radiant, modern woman. In her hands, the ancient relic ceased to be a museum exhibit. It came alive. The interpretation had radically shifted. If on Juliana, the diadem appeared as a symbol of duty and the burden of power, on Maxima it became an emblem of the fusion of cultures and eras. The warmth of her smile melted away the centuries of coldness embedded in this severe ornament. She didn't merely wear it, she engaged in a dialogue with it, proving that one could be a modern-style icon while deeply respecting the past. The diadem was no longer simply a Dutch treasure, it had become a global jewelry masterpiece on one of the most photographed women on the planet. This emergence onto the world stage marked the peak of the diadem's value. Its historical significance, always known in select circles, was now bolstered by the global fame of its new wearer. It stood as living proof that great treasures do not perish in vaults. They merely await their moment and a worthy custodian to begin a new, even more brilliant chapter in their unending story. So, where does this treasure reside today? The answer is both simple and complex. The diadem is not the personal property of Queen Maxima. She cannot sell it, give it away, or bequeath it as she sees fit. The ornament belongs to the Crown of the Netherlands. Wise rulers of the past, Queen Juliana in particular, established special foundations to which all historically significant jewels of the House of Orange were transferred. This guarantees that the collection will never be sold off and will forever remain the nation's heritage, passing from one monarch to the next. Thus, the Queen is not an owner, but rather a guardian, a curator of this invaluable legacy. Physically, the diadem is housed in the meticulously secured vaults of Noordeinde Palace in The Hague. Its current status is no longer that of an accessory, no matter how luxurious. It is a historical artifact, a symbol of the state. Its public appearances are strictly governed by protocol and occur only during moments of paramount national importance. When Queen Maxima selects this particular diadem for a state banquet, it is not a fashion choice, but a political statement. It is a sign of profound respect for the guest and a demonstration of the full 400 years of power and continuity of the Dutch monarchy. It no longer adorns a woman, it crowns the institution of power. Attempting to appraise its monetary value is almost meaningless. Of course, one could calculate the cost of the platinum, the weight, and the clarity of the old-cut diamonds. Experts could be brought in to determine the market price of 7 large, natural 17th-century sea pearls. But this would only be a fraction of its true worth. Its principal value is intangible. It stems from its provenance, a history of ownership that stretches back to Amalia of Solms-Braunfels herself. It is multiplied by the iconic status bestowed upon it by Queens Wilhelmina and Juliana, and by the global renown gifted to it by Queen Maxima. If such an artifact, an absolute impossibility, were ever to appear at auction, its price would be determined not by carats, but by centuries of history. It would be a battle not for a jewel, but for the right to possess a legend. And so, we return to the question we posed at the very beginning. Why does this treasure, one of Europe's oldest, appear in public so rarely, as if guarding a secret? The answer is now evident. The secret of this diadem lies not in a curse or a scandal, but in its immense symbolic weight. It is not for beauty, it is for history. It is brought out from the vault not to embellish an outfit, but to mark a moment when a new chapter in the nation's book is being written. Each of its appearances is a carefully orchestrated act of state, a silent message about the enduring nature of tradition and the strength of the dynasty. This diadem is a perfect mirror. It reflected not only the light of ballrooms, but also the faces of its wearers at the most decisive moments of their lives. It witnessed the steely resolve of a young Wilhelmina, marrying for the future of her country. It felt the heaviness in Queen Juliana's heart, forced to conceal family drama behind royal dignity. It absorbed the radiant energy of Queen Maxima, proving one can be modern, yet remain a link in a 400-year chain of continuity. In its cold gleam are frozen Amalia's ambitions as she forged the grandeur of her court. In its severe lines, the sense of duty of Wilhelmina, who guided her people through 2 world wars. In its warm, pearlescent glow, the maternal care of Juliana. And in its new, dazzling radiance, the cosmopolitan charm of Maxima. This is not simply platinum, diamonds, and pearls. It is an alloy of human destinies, passions, triumphs, and tragedies. To wear this diadem is to engage in a silent dialogue with the shadows of the great women of the past. It means feeling their gaze upon you, experiencing responsibility not only to your people, but to the entire history of your family. This jewel is a bridge across centuries, connecting the contemporary queen with the very matriarch who laid the first stone in the foundation of the House of Orange's splendor. Therefore, the next time you see a news report and catch a fleeting glimpse of those 7 legendary pearls on the head of the Queen of the Netherlands, know this: you are not looking at a fashion choice or a display of wealth. You are witnessing a quiet ritual. A ritual in which one woman, vested with power, addresses the past to affirm the future. Rulers are born, reign, and pass on. Eras succeed one another, leaving only lines in textbooks. But Amalia of Solms-Braunfels's 7 pearls remain. They are a silent promise, frozen in mother of pearl and light. A promise that, while history is written by people, only true masterpieces are destined to preserve it forever.